So this old experiment tells us something that we feel deeply, but we usually don't talk about it, we deny it. The participants are children from 3 to 7. They are given dolls, white and black dolls, and they are asked questions about which doll is the good doll, which doll is the bad doll, and it reveals a bias.
Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll?
It exposes the internalization of inferiority that results from the cues that a child observes. A child who does not have sufficient critical thinking would just internalize these feelings. And it speaks for every one of us. It tells us something very important about racism and its impact on how we view ourselves.
One of the main questions I had was, what's an unseen thought from your experience in the industry, especially in the psychology industry, that deserves more attention?
The evidence that is produced in the West does not necessarily apply in our reality. And I see that very clearly in Palestine. To suggest that we need to do EMDR for a person who experienced traumatic reality in Gaza is a very weird assumption. Because some of these practices are suitable for a traumatic experience with a clear beginning and a clear end. But in the life of most of the people in Palestine, trauma is enduring. It has no clear beginning and no clear end. We live in a traumatogenic atmosphere that touches every aspect of your life. And often we cannot realize where this trauma comes from. Is it your personal trauma because you were shot lately? Or do you suffer from symptoms related to your grandfather who was expelled from his rich home in 48? Or is it the torture of your father who tried to resist and spent 20 years in prison and now he's back home but he suffers from nightmares? Or is it your classmate who was killed? Or is it the demolition of the home of your uncle? So trauma is everywhere. And I don't think that the practices that focus on a single traumatic event would be suitable in a reality like ours. One of the messages of the workshops that I conduct in Palestine and outside Palestine is to help professionals within my profession, medicine, mental health, psychiatry, to see, to be attentive to how our profession might conceal oppression and power structure. Usually the suffering and pain that is produced by power structure can be misunderstood as a dysfunction of the individual. So when the therapist, psychiatrist, doctor becomes more aware of the influence, the damaging effect of power structure, hopefully they will be more careful before they pathologize the experiences of those who suffer.
There's no amount of oppression more than the Palestinian people that have suffered, but it brings me to a beautiful point of your book's title, Radiance in Pain and Resilience. And there's always a silver lining. So I know that's the topic in your book, and I'd love to maybe get a summary of that resilience and the angle that you took on it, because it's a very hopeful angle.
I remember my reaction when I saw the health system being destroyed in Gaza. Every community mental health center, the only psychiatric hospital, most of our colleagues became displaced and they lost family members and they are in grief. And at the same time, we could see the community organizing itself in a way to support each other, creating groups to play music, to chant national songs, groups of women supporting the ones who have fresh losses and grief. When the traditional support system, mental health system doesn't function, we need to pay attention to the virtues of the community.
And as you said, more than 2 decades of more than 5 wars and just total oppression. But one thing that you mentioned that I really loved, and maybe you can pass on that knowledge to others, is the concept of sumud, which is translate to resilience from Arabic, right?
Yeah, but I would say that resilience does not make justice to the larger concept of sumud. The word sumud exists in Palestinian literature from the time of the British Mandate. Sumud is a psychological response, but it has the social aspect of how do we connect together, how we rebuild trust when we are made to distrust each other. Because we perceive that the threat wants to harm us as individuals, but also to break this social fabric between people. You know, when people are made to starve, this is a deliberate, malicious plan to make people express the worst behaviors against each other. This is an attack on the Palestinian sumud. And while we don't have an official definition of the word sumud, every Palestinian understands it, and we understand it in an innate way. Because if someone tries to push you away or to uproot you, in a reflexive way, you will hold on. You will anchor yourself. You will extend your hands to hold on other relationships. So we understand it reflexively, every Palestinian, even if they cannot define it, the meaning of sumud.
What do you wish people question more? As you said, it's easy to forget the psychological damage this is doing, the meaning behind all the starvation and what it does. What do you wish our community and others challenge more and question more?
Power structure, racism, islamophobia, white supremacy. The West projected their racism that allowed the Holocaust to take place onto the Palestinian Arab Muslim community. Islamophobia allowed the silence regarding what's happening to Palestinians. I don't like to use the term Islamophobia because I think it dilutes this form of racism by calling it a phobia, as if it's a kind of anxiety. The West could not criticize Israel because of the guilt of the Holocaust. And also because they have not finished their business with colonialism. Every European country has a colonial history for which they have not apologized. So the denial of the colonial past makes them also silent about the behaviors of Israel. So it's time to open all these unfinished businesses and talk about them, while Gaza and Palestine seem very far from here, yet the impact can be felt everywhere in the world.
Because you mentioned yesterday about the honor killing and how that's something that was really interesting. Because if you ask anyone, they will say it's a culturally Middle Eastern, Islamic, but it's not really, that's not where it started. So that's a thing, right? Where you can pass on that kind of racism where it was maybe meant to be somewhere else. It shouldn't be anywhere.
When we fail to practice critical political awareness, we end up accepting the gaze of the West towards us. So if they tell us you are terrorists, you are inferior, you have honor killing, we will start thinking like that of ourselves.
Exactly.
And this is not very far from the Clark's doll experiment.
It's not.
So we will internalize these negative representations if we don't challenge them all the time. Ideology is the misrepresentation of facts. For example, it is probably a fact in certain places that there is femicide, killing of women. But it is not because these people inherently have a worse nature than other human beings. Maybe because these people were colonized, where they internalized humiliation and inferiority when they could not respond to the vertical power oppressing them, and they displace it over easier victims in their society. Vertical power that is not challenged will be expressed against your own people. Women, children, marginalized groups. It is not because we are innately of a lower nature. It is because we don't have the power to challenge the misrepresentations.
I'm with you. And it starts within. And I really need advice from you when it comes to when others project those to us, those negative connotations and the misrepresentation. Can they learn how to unhate? Can we help them realize the truth?
Colonialism and discrimination and racism are manifestations of evil. And the antidote against evil is kindness and compassion. Without making compromises on our views of the world, on our reality, on our experience, without making compromises. But I think we can engage in a dialogue, in a discussion that challenges power structures without making everyone feel that they are an enemy or they are guilty, because sometimes they are just blinded and they don't do the necessary critical thinking.
Exactly.
So we want them to engage with us.
I love that, Dr. Samah. That's what I have always been passionate about. And I think my last couple of questions is about the manifestation of evil. Are some people just born evil? Or do they learn how to hate? And do they get that trauma transformed to them and then they manifest that evil and then it just sticks to them? Challenging that is really hard. And like, you're so mature in terms of the way that you, of course, think and can control your emotion. Most people, it's very difficult, especially when their families are involved or there's like so much trauma and pain. What do you think?
My philosophical and ethical understanding of evil is that it is part of
innate,
the challenges of life. From an Islamic philosophical and ethical point of view, we believe of sunnat at-tadafu'. Sunnat at-tadafu', which means the divine law of mutual checking out. So there is an alternation between day and night, alternation between different seasons, and also people's desires and greed and kindness and compassion. This is created, designed. This doesn't mean that we just keep quiet about evil and bad deeds and greed. The challenge for us is to push back. This is our challenge in life.
It's a big challenge. And you say push back, but also with empathy and not too much hatred, because otherwise no one will listen. And that's very tough.
No, it is very important, I think, to not adopt the strategies or the tools of the oppressor.
Of course.
When we push back or when we fight back, we need to remain authentic to our ways of doing things. The worst thing that can happen to an oppressed person is to be shaped by the behaviors and actions of the oppressor.
So, Dr. Samah, if there was one last piece of advice you would leave me and society, one thing, could be from your book or could be from a personal advice, what would it be?
I want to say that the events that are taking place in Palestine are urgent. First, we need to urgently respond to the situation to end the harm and support the people there. But also, We need to look at the bigger picture and see how this challenging reality in Palestine can help us check our value system, our role in life. It can be a personal journey of liberation for everyone who engages with the urgent situation in Palestine. So Palestine, a troubled place, can be a catalyst for personal liberation for many people who care about the situation there.
It's a beautiful note to end on, and I agree with you. And it's such an unseen perspective to see it as a catalyst of hope.
I hope people will not miss that opportunity.
They won't, I'm sure they won't, especially with amazing people like you. Thank you, Dr. Samah.
Pleasure, thank you very much.
You. Anything else you want to say?
I think we're good.
Amazing.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. No, shukran.
We have one big clap.
Oh yeah, one big clap.